Hello, and welcome to this OpenTermHub tutorial on step-by-step instructions to load OpenTermHub with Sandbox data. OpenTermHub is an open source Fire terminology server that can be deployed as a Docker container and links with Cloud TermHub in order to supply content and make it easy to get up and running. So this is on the GitHub OpenTermHub project, and we're going to go through step-by-step instructions with Sandbox data. So when you come in here, there's two options. One, you can build and run the project yourself if you have Java installed and you want to go about doing that. The other option is to simply run the published Docker container, which is compatible with this tutorial. So we're going to run this command here. The first thing we're doing is choosing an index directory. OpenTermHub uses Lucene-based indexes for data storage and retrieval. And so you need to choose a directory where you want that data to live. The second statement here essentially clears and prepares that directory so it's ready to receive data. And then we launch the Docker container, pointing it to that index directory as the basis of where it's going to write indexes. And we are also enabling this post-load computations flag. This is not something that's needed for Fire APIs, but builds additional data structures that are used by our embedded terminology browser, which we will take a look at the end of this tutorial. So if you simply run these commands here, as we'll do, this launches a OpenTermHub Docker image. You can see this running by looking here and starting up here. And you'll see in a second here that it's open. So now it's ready to receive requests. The next thing that we're going to do is show that Swagger documentation is now available. So if I go to localhost 8080, which is where I'm running by default, this Docker image endpoint, I have the OpenTermHub native terminology APIs as well as links to Fire. So there's Swagger pages for the Fire endpoints as well that you can use to make calls and follow along that way as well. That just shows that it's up and running. The next thing that we're going to do is load some data. So the Sandbox project in TermHub contains a number of mini terminologies that are for sort of testing purposes. And the files, the R5 JSON files for these terminology assets, code system, concept map, and value set are available within this project itself. So you can simply run these commands to load the content. If I do this, we're going to load SNOMED-CT. Here, let me make this a little bit easier to see. Come higher up. Yeah. So it's sending the data in, and then this shows that it's successfully loaded it. Then we're going to load in ArcSnorm here as well. And then we'll just kind of follow through. This is ICD-10. We'll load in as well. And then we'll load link. And then we'll load. This is the SNOMED to ICD-10 CM concept maps. So put these in here as well. And then finally, there's an example of a value set that is all the extension concepts that are part of the SNOMED CTUS set. So this is a value set that we're loading in as well. And at this point now, we have all the data loaded. So this next section in the tutorial essentially gives you a variety of different ways to run through a series of queries to see what's happening. You can use the Postman collection if you want. And then there's a set of curl calls for the testing the native terminology API, as well as testing R4 API and testing R5. Now, Fire R4 and R5 for terminology services are very similar. So, both are offered depending on exactly the use case that you required. But all of these situations here, if you have curl and JQ installed, you should be able to run them and just kind of see the output. So here, this is asking the server what terminologies are installed. There's 4, SNOMED, ArcSnorm, ICD-10, and LNC, which is the NLM mini version of blank here. Similarly, you can go through each of these. I'm not going to demonstrate running all of these queries here, but they go through examples of like how to find other constructs. You can find all of these calls in the Swagger documentation as well, how to do various different kinds of searches, and then just to quickly show you here also calls to the Fire endpoints that should return just a different perspective depending on what kind of integration you want to do. And all of these endpoints and examples will explain what they do, and you can test all of them to see what happens. Again, we're not going to go through each example here. We're just going to show you that you can run through these examples. The last thing we want to do here is show there is an embedded browser in OpenTermHub. So once you have it running and you have data loaded, you can come here and you can see the data. So we've loaded 4 terminologies in. You can double click a button to search one. This is essentially very similar to the TermHub cloud browser itself. If you search with nothing as a search result, you'll see there's only 456 concepts here. And a lot of this content is sort of oriented around diabetes related stuff. We just picked a handful of codes to kind of demonstrate the ability to like see the content and interact with it. Here you can see because we loaded the ICD maps, there's also mappings to ICD-10 here. And there's a mini data set, so there's not a lot of stuff here, but you get the idea of how to browse around. When you load full data into this environment, then you'll be able to interact with the full terminologies. This tutorial is built around small sandbox data. If you have a project in TermHub, you can use the export function to download the R5 JSON files for the terminologies, map sets, and subsets that you're interested in and make these calls yourself to load this, the full-size terminologies into your own locally running Docker image. The next tutorial is about using the syndication mechanism to achieve essentially the same result. Thank you for watching this training video.